If you're new to Photoshop, one of the first things you need to know is how to navigate an image. By that, I mean how to zoom in and zoom out, and how to pan or scroll an image from one area to another. So in this video, I'll show you the best ways to work. I'll cover the basics of zooming and panning, including the tools, commands, and panels you need to know, but I'll also show you lots of great tips and tricks to speed things up, including how to navigate multiple images at once. I'm using Photoshop 2022, but any recent version will work. I'm Steve Patterson from Photoshop Essentials, and let's get started. You can follow along with your own images. I'll start with this one from Adobe Stock. When you first open your image, Photoshop zooms the image out so it fits entirely on the screen. And we can see the current zoom level in the tab at the top. In my case, it's 33.3%. Your value may be different. The zoom level is also displayed in the lower left of the document. But the difference is that we can change the zoom level from here. You can double-click on the current value to highlight it, then enter a new value like 50 for 50%, and press Enter on a Windows PC or Return on a Mac. And the image instantly jumps to the new zoom level. And here's the first tip. If you hover your cursor over the zoom level and hold down the Control key on your keyboard or the Command key on a Mac, your cursor will change to a Scrubby slider. You can then drag to the right to zoom in or drag to the left to zoom out. And if you add the Shift key, so that's Shift Control in Windows or Shift Command on a Mac, you'll zoom in or out in larger 10% increments. Another way to zoom in and out is by going up to the View menu in the menu bar and using the Zoom In and Zoom Out commands. I'll choose Zoom In, and Photoshop zooms me in a bit closer. But you would need to go back to the View menu and reselect the commands anytime you wanted to zoom in or zoom out a bit further. Thankfully, each command has a keyboard shortcut, and these are two of the most useful shortcuts to memorize. To zoom in, press and hold the Control key or the Command key on a Mac, and then press the plus sign. And to zoom out, hold the Control key or Command on a Mac and press the minus sign. Keep an eye on the zoom level in the tab as I press Control plus or Command plus to zoom in and Control minus or Command minus to zoom out. Notice that the zoom level is jumping to specific values. Right now, I'm at 12.5%. If I press Control plus or Command plus on a Mac, I zoom in to 16.7%, then 25%, 33.3%, 50%, 66.7%, and finally 100%. And if I press Control minus or Command minus to zoom out, I'm back to 66.7%, then 50%, 33.3%, and so on. Now, these are not random values. These are the zoom levels that give us the most accurate view of the image. Anytime we're viewing the image at a zoom level less than 100%, we're not seeing all of the pixels. So Photoshop needs to redraw the image with fewer pixels while still trying to make it look as accurate as possible. But if you're zoomed in at some odd value, like 51.25%, the image will still look good, but it will look softer on your screen than it really is. It may be hard to see in the video, but if you focus on her eyelashes, and I press Control minus or Command minus to zoom out, they look sharper. And that's because my zoom level jumped from 51.25% to the nearest preset value, which is 50%. And we're now seeing a more accurate view. So whenever you need a sharper view of your image, just use the keyboard shortcut Control or Command plus or Control or Command minus to zoom in or out to the nearest preset level. To go back to viewing the entire image at once, go up to the View menu and choose the Fit on Screen command. And notice that it also has a keyboard shortcut of Control 0 or Command 0 on a Mac. And now we're seeing the entire image. The only problem is we're back to viewing it at an odd value, like 39.9%. And that means the image looks a bit soft. So to get a more accurate view, I'll press Ctrl- or Command- on a Mac to jump back to the nearest preset value, which is 33.3%. And now the image looks sharper. But to get the most accurate view possible, we need to view the image at a zoom level of 100%. And you can jump to 100% at any time by going up to the View menu and choosing 100%, or by pressing the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-1 or Command-1 on a Mac. So notice that all of the zoom commands share the same key for their shortcut. It's the Control key on a Windows PC and the Command key on a Mac. Once you know that, all you need to remember is to add the plus sign to zoom in, the minus sign to zoom out, 0 to fit the image on screen, and 1 to jump to 100%. Now, it's important to know that viewing the image at 100% is the only way to see a truly accurate view of your image with all of its detail. At 100%, each pixel in the image is displayed by a single pixel on your screen, and that's not true with any other zoom level. So if you're sharpening the image or doing anything where you need the most accurate view possible, be sure to view it at 100%. For now, I'll go back to fitting it on the screen. So far, we've learned that we can zoom in and out using the zoom in and zoom out commands, and you'll use these commands all the time. But they do have one big drawback. They can only zoom on the center of the document window. Let's say I want to zoom in on the woman's eye on the right. So I'll press Ctrl+ or Command+ to zoom in. Then I'll press it a few more times to zoom in closer. And Photoshop does a great job of zooming in on her cheek, which is not what I wanted. But that's because her cheek is in the center of the document window. So how do we control which part of the image we're zooming into? For that, we use Photoshop's Zoom tool, which is found near the bottom of the toolbar. You can also select the Zoom tool from your keyboard by pressing the letter Z. With the Zoom tool active, your mouse cursor will change to a magnifying glass with a plus sign in the middle. Then simply click on the area to zoom in and click repeatedly to zoom in closer. To zoom out with the Zoom tool, press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard or the Option key on a Mac. The plus sign will change to a minus sign. Then click on an area to zoom out and click repeatedly to zoom out further. Keep an eye on the zoom level in the tab as I zoom in and out, and you'll notice that the Zoom tool is using the same preset values as the zoom in and zoom out commands. And that's because those are the values that give us the most accurate view. You can zoom in beyond 100%, so here I'm at 200%, 300, 400, and so on. But once we go beyond 100%, we're not seeing any more detail. We're just making the pixels larger, and we can see how blocky the image is starting to look. If you continue zooming in, you'll eventually see an outline around the pixels known as the pixel grid. The grid won't be visible when you save or print the image. It's just there for reference, and it will disappear when you zoom back out. You can disable the pixel grid by going up to the View menu, choosing Show, and then Pixel Grid to deselect it. So now if I zoom in, the grid does not appear. To turn it back on, just go back to the View menu and reselect it. I'll again press Ctrl-0 or Command-0 to fit the image on screen. So the Zoom tool is great for zooming in on a specific area, but rather than selecting it from the toolbar every time you need to zoom in or out, a better way is to access it temporarily from your keyboard. I'll switch to a different tool like the rectangular marquee tool. To temporarily access the Zoom tool, hold down the spacebar on your keyboard and the Control key. On a Mac, hold the spacebar and the Command key, and you'll have access to the Zoom tool for as long as the keys are held down, so you can click on an area to zoom in. To zoom out, add the Alt key or the Option key on a Mac. So here I'm holding the spacebar, the Control or Command key, and the Alt or Option key as I click. Release the Alt or Option key to switch back to zooming in. And when you release all the keys, you'll switch back to the previous tool so you can keep on working. Another way to use the Zoom tool is with a feature known as continuous zoom. With the Zoom tool active, click on an area where you want to zoom in and keep your mouse button held down. After a second or so, Photoshop will start zooming in continuously until you release your mouse button. To zoom out continuously, add the Alt key or the Option key and then click and hold. Release the Alt or Option key to go back to zooming in, and again I'll add the Alt or Option key to zoom back out. But my favorite way to use the Zoom tool is with a feature called Scrubby Zoom. This feature should be turned on by default, but just to make sure, select the Zoom tool from the toolbar. Then in the Options bar, make sure Scrubby Zoom is checked. Then simply click and drag to the right to zoom in on an area, or drag to the left to zoom out. And the faster you drag, the faster the zooming will be. The only catch is that you need to start dragging right after you click. If you wait too long, Photoshop will assume you want to use continuous zoom, and once it starts, dragging has no effect. So make sure you start dragging as soon as your mouse button is down. But what happens if we turn Scrubby Zoom off? In that case, the Zoom tool behaves more like the rectangular marquee tool. You can click and drag a selection outline around an area, and when you release your mouse button, Photoshop zooms in on that area. If you prefer to work this way, you can leave Scrubby Zoom unchecked. But if you like Scrubby Zoom better, just turn it back on in the Options bar. Finally, one more way to zoom in and out is by using the scroll wheel on your mouse. And this works with any tool, not just the Zoom tool. Hover your cursor over the area where you want to zoom in. Press and hold the Alt key or the Option key on a Mac and scroll the wheel up to zoom in or down to zoom out. And if you add the Shift key, you'll limit the zoom values to just those presets we looked at earlier that give you the sharpest and most accurate view. And that's the basics of zooming in and zooming out in Photoshop. Next, let's look at how to pan or scroll an image from one area to another. For that, I've opened this second image, also from Adobe Stock. And again, Photoshop zooms the image out so it fits entirely on the screen. And it shows the nearest preset zoom level, in this case 33.3%, for the sharpest and most accurate view while still keeping the entire image visible. Panning or scrolling an image is most useful when we're zoomed in and can't see everything at once. So I'll zoom my image in to 100% by going up to the View menu and choosing 100%, or by pressing that keyboard shortcut Ctrl+1 or Command+1 on a Mac. To pan an image from one area to another, we use Photoshop's Hand tool, which is found in the toolbar directly above the Zoom tool. You can also select the Hand tool from the keyboard by pressing the letter H. Your mouse cursor changes to a hand icon. Then simply click and drag the image around to view different areas, and release your mouse button to let go. If you release your mouse button while you're dragging, you can toss or throw the image in that direction, and it will keep moving until it gradually comes to a stop. Or you can stop it manually by clicking on it again. This is known as flick panning. If flick panning is not working, check to make sure it's enabled in Photoshop's preferences. You can do that on a Windows PC by going up to the Edit menu. On a Mac, go up to the Photoshop menu. From there, choose Preferences and then Tools. And make sure Enable Flick Panning is checked. While we're here, make sure that Overscroll is checked as well, which we'll look at next. Then click OK to close the dialog box. Overscroll allows you to pan the image even when the entire image is visible on the screen. To fit the image on screen, I could go up to the View menu and choose the Fit on Screen command, or I could press the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-0 or Command-0 on a Mac. But you can also fit the image on screen by double-clicking on the Hand tool in the toolbar. If you double-click on the Zoom tool, you'll jump to the 100% view. So I'll double-click on the Hand tool to fit it back on screen. With Overscroll enabled, even if the entire image is visible, you can still click on it with the Hand tool and drag it around, which is handy if you have work to do along an edge or in a corner, because you can drag it into the center of your work area. Then to fit the image back on screen, just double-click on the Hand tool in the toolbar. Now, you won't want to select the Hand tool from the toolbar every time you need to pan to a different part of the image. So a faster way to work is to access it temporarily from your keyboard. I'll jump to the 100% view by double-clicking on the Zoom tool. Then I'll choose a different tool from the toolbar, like the Brush tool. To temporarily access the Hand tool, press and hold the space bar on your keyboard. Click and drag the image to where you need it, and then release the spacebar to switch back to the previous tool. You can move the image up or down using the scroll bar along the right, and you can pan left or right using the scroll bar along the bottom. But you can also move it up, down, left, or right using the scroll wheel on your mouse, and this works with any tool selected, not just the Hand tool. Scrolling the wheel up moves the image up, and scrolling down moves it down. If you hold the Control key or the Command key on a Mac and scroll the wheel up, you'll pan the image to the left, and scrolling down pans it to the right. And just to recap from earlier, holding the Alt or Option key on your keyboard while scrolling your mouse wheel up or down lets you zoom in and out. And one more way to pan an image with the Hand tool is by using a feature called Bird's Eye View, which is not just useful, but also a lot of fun. I'll zoom in close to my image so we can really see how it works. Notice that I'm now at 200%. Earlier, I mentioned that you can select the Hand tool by pressing the letter H on your keyboard. To use the bird's eye view, press and hold the letter H. It won't work by holding the spacebar, and you need to hold H even if the Hand tool is already active. Then with the H key down, click and hold on your image. Photoshop zooms the image out so it fits entirely on the screen, and you'll see a rectangle which represents the area you'll zoom into next. Drag the rectangle over a different area, and then release your mouse button to instantly zoom in on that area at the same zoom level you were at previously. As long as you keep the H key held down, you can keep clicking and dragging the rectangle to different areas, and then releasing your mouse button to quickly inspect the image. And that's all the ways to pan an image with the Hand tool in Photoshop. So far, we've learned how to zoom in and zoom out of an image with the Zoom tool and how to pan or scroll an image using the Hand tool. But the Navigator panel in Photoshop is like the Zoom tool and the Hand tool rolled into one. To see how the Navigator panel works, I'll use this third image from Adobe Stock. And again, Photoshop opens it at the nearest preset zoom level, in this case 33.3%, so we can see the entire image at the sharpest possible view. The Navigator panel is not part of Photoshop's default workspace, so to open it, go up to the Window menu in the menu bar. And here you'll find a list of all the panels available in Photoshop. Click the Navigator panel to open it. The panel opens in the secondary column of panels to the left of the main column, and these panels are displayed only as icons until we click on an icon to expand it. The Navigator panel is pretty simple. There's a main window where we can see the image. The current zoom level is displayed in the lower left, and we have a slider bar along the bottom that lets us change the zoom level. But the first thing you'll probably want to do is make the Navigator panel larger, and you can do that by clicking and dragging the bottom left corner. Notice the red outline around the image. The outline represents the area that's currently visible in the main document window. Since I'm zoomed out far enough to see my entire image, the outline is surrounding the entire image. But if I drag the slider to the right to zoom in closer, then the outline shrinks to show me just the area I'm seeing in the document window. And a nice feature of the Navigator panel is that you can click and drag the outline to inspect different parts of your image. Along with dragging the slider, you can zoom in closer by clicking the large mountain icon to the right, or zoom out by clicking the smaller mountain on the left. You can also change the zoom level by highlighting the current value in the lower left, entering a new value, and then pressing Enter or Return on a Mac. Or if you press and hold the Control key on your keyboard or the Command key on a Mac and hover over the current zoom level, your cursor will change to a Scrubby slider. You can then click and drag left or right to zoom in or out, and then drag the outline to inspect different areas. Or if you press and hold the Control key or the Command key and hover over the image in the Navigator panel, your cursor will change to a magnifying glass. But instead of clicking to zoom in like you would with the zoom tool, you can click and drag the outline around whatever area you want to zoom into. And if you're having trouble seeing the red outline in front of your image, you can change the color by clicking the Navigator panel's menu icon, choosing Panel Options, and then choosing a new color, either from the presets or by clicking the color swatch and choosing one from the color picker. To hide the Navigator panel, just click its icon. And that's how to use the Navigator panel in Photoshop. Finally, now that we know how to navigate around a single image, let's finish up by looking at how to zoom and pan multiple open images at the same time. For that, I've opened 2 more images, both from Adobe Stock. We can switch between open images by clicking the Document tabs, and both of my images opened at the same 33.3% zoom level. By default, we can only view one image at a time, but we can view multiple open images at once by going up to the Window menu, choosing Arrange, and then choosing one of these multi-document view options. Since I only have 2 images open, I'm limited to either 2 up horizontal or 2 up vertical. If I had more open images, I could choose 3 up, 4 up, and so on. But I'll go with 2 up vertical. And now both images appear side by side. Now we can still only work on one image at a time, and the currently active image is the one with its name, zoom level, and other information in the tab appearing brighter, while the other one appears dimmed. We can switch between active images by clicking the tabs, or just by clicking on the images themselves. To zoom all open images at once, select the Zoom tool, then press and hold your Shift key and click on the active image to zoom in. Both images will zoom in at the same time. To zoom out, add the Alt or Option key. So that's Shift-Alt in Windows or Shift-Option on a Mac. You can make zooming all open images the default behavior for the Zoom tool by making sure the Zoom tool is active in the toolbar and then selecting Zoom All Windows in the Options bar. Photoshop will then zoom all open images automatically with no need to hold the Shift key, but you'll still need to hold the Alt or Option key to zoom them out. Now, zooming all images at once only works with the Zoom tool. It does not work with the Zoom In, Zoom Out, Fit on Screen, or 100% commands found under the View menu. So if I choose 100%, my active image zooms in, but the other one does not. To get your other image or images to match the same zoom level as the active image, go up to the Window menu, choose Arrange, and then choose Match Zoom. And now both images are at 100%. To pan or scroll all images at once, select the Hand tool, then hold the Shift key and click and drag one of the images to pan them both at the same time. And if you want panning all images to be the default behavior so you don't need to hold the Shift key, then with the Hand tool active in the toolbar, turn on Scroll All Windows in the options bar. Finally, if you've panned your active image on its own and want your inactive image to match the same position or location, go up to the Window menu, choose Arrange, and then choose Match Location. Or you can choose Match All to match the zoom level, the location, and the rotation value all at the same time. We'll look at rotating your view in a separate video. But since matching their location moved my second image too far off the screen, I'll click on my second image to make it active. Then with the hand tool selected, I'll hold Shift and drag both images back into view. And there we have it. That's everything you need to know to zoom and pan your images in Photoshop. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to my channel to learn more about Photoshop. You can also visit my website, photoshopessentials.com, where you'll find hundreds of Photoshop tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm Steve Patterson from Photoshop Essentials.